carbon dioxide in 1.32 decimeter cube vessels at 48 degrees Celsius using van der Waals equation. And it is given A and A value as 3.59 and B as 0.020427. So, and the basics of solving any numerical problem is, first, you should write what parameters are given and what they require. So here parameter given in A, B are already we know the constant, and temperature is given, and number of mole, that is N, is 1 mole, and volume is 1.32 decimeter cube, and your temperature is 48. So you have to convert the temperature into Kelvin scale. So I am adding 273, and it is 321 Kelvin. So these are the given data, and they require the calculated, they ask for pressure. So by using the van der Waals equation, first we write the van der Waals equation, P plus A N square V square B minus NB equal to nRT. Since we require the pressure term, so I am separating pressure from here. P plus A N square V square nRT. Since this is a multiplication, I can easily shift this term below this nRT. B minus NB. Now P is nRT B minus NB minus, this is plus. So I'm shifting this term to this right hand side. Automatically it will be negative A N square by B square. Now you see your N is 1 mole, R is, since this is R have two value in terms of Joule Kelvin Joule Kelvin, it is 8.314. But since the this parameter is given in atmosphere, mole, or decimeter cube, so we have to take 0.02821. So now putting R is already we know universal constant, T is 321 Kelvin, V is given 1.32, N is 1, B, A is also given. So simply you put 1 into 0.08206 into 321 divided by B 1.32 minus 1 into B is 0.0427. This is one term. Minus A is 3.59, N is 1 square, and 1.32%. So by simply solving this by calculator, you can get the value of P. Okay. So this is very easy. Now the second one. So this was from van der Waals equation. The second problem is from compressibility factor, that's it, Z, the second topic. Now see the problem. A gas obeys the equation of state P V minus NB equal to nRT. It is not. That means in this equation is where we neglect this A plus A N square by V square term, that is the force of attraction term. So a gas which obeys this equation where P and T are such that Vm value is equal to 10 of B, that is 10 times B. Now they ask what is the numerical value of Z. Okay. So they given just simply one thing, that Vm is equal to 10B, and they ask what is the value of Z. Now I am writing the given equation PV minus NB equal to nRT. P, since Vm is molar volume, it is V by N. This is 10B. So I am dividing this V term by N so that we can write V by N as Vm and putting this value 10B. V by N minus NB by N, NN cancels, so simply B. nRT by N means nRT, NN cancel, here NB, N cancel, and this is V by N. Now V by N is nothing but Vm minus B equal to nRT. Now you simply put the value of Vm, which is given 10B, Now 10b minus b equal to RT, and it is p into 9b equal to RT. Since z, they ask the value of z as z is PVM by RT. That is the PV by nRT, or we can write PVM by RT. Now putting the value of b from here, Vm by 10. So PVM 9 by 10 nRT. Now Z is PVM by RT. Simply I am rearranging this two term. It will be right hand side, it left 10 by 9, and it is 1.11. You see, this is somehow interesting. They simply given a equation and this condition, and they ask the value of Z. So you have to solve this problem like this. So this is somehow little bit interesting. Now coming to the third topic. In the same topic, we have said that when the gas molecule obeys the Boyle law, that is, it will show in Z versus P graph, when the gas obeys this Boyle equation, this type of straight line, then that particular temperature is called Boyle temperature, and it was denoted by TB. And TB was related by A and B, with A and B like this. TB was A by RB, where A and B was van der Waals coefficient or constant. So this is small numerical. They given the A, B value, and they ask what is the value of boiling temperature. So simply put A and B value are already, you know. From here you can calculate the boiling temperature. But the interesting problem is sometimes they give the TB value and ask for what is the value of TC, that is your critical constant. We have drawn a graph of carbon dioxide like this, from where we determine the critical constant, TC, PC, and VC. So where TC was, I have shown you the TC was 8 by 27 A by RB. This was TC. So they provide you the TB value, which is A by RB, that is the TB, and ask the what is the value of TC. So you know TC is 8A by 27 RB, and A by RB is TB. So simply you put the value of TB, and this is already constant. So easily you can calculate TC value, that is your critical temperature. In this way, TI, that is why inversion temperature, in the last class I have shown you the inversion temperature from Joule-Thomson effect, which was related by A and B by this relation 2A by RB. Again, you see A by RB means TB. So 2 times TB is equal to your inversion temperature. Another thing, another relation was TB, that is your boiling temperature, melting boiling to boiling temperature. That boiling temperature related by TC, 2 by 3 of TC. Then TC is 8 by 27 TB. So if they provide you the TC value and ask what is the boiling temperature, or if they say this is the boil temperature, what is the boiling temperature, then you can calculate by this relation. So you should know the relation between these three. Just like this problem, TC is 120 Kelvin. What is the boiling temperature? You know TB is 2 times TB, small b is 2 times. So you simply this one put this value, and it is your this boiling temperature of this gas was 80 Kelvin. I am given similar type of problem in your assignment. You can see. Now from critical phenomena, this type of numerical can be given. They given the value of A and B and ask for the TC, VC, and PC value. You know the relation. TC is 8A by 27 RB, VC is 3B, and PC is A by 20 B squared. By simply putting this A and B value, you can get the value of these three constant. This is very easy. They can also ask like this. Given your PC value, this invert of this problem. PC is this, VC is this, and calculate A and B. So similarly, in this way, they given this value and you can calculate A and B value, the reverse of this problem. This is easy. Now one problem is from corresponding state, law of corresponding state. Calculate the pressure exerted by 1 mole of carbon dioxide gas at 40 degrees Celsius confined to a volume of 0.107 decimeter cube using the law of corresponding state. So, and they given the critical constant of this carbon dioxide gas, that is Vc, Tc, and Pc. And they ask what is the PR, that is the reduced pressure of this carbon dioxide gas. In the similar in the first problem, they just ask the pressure from Van der Waals equation. Here they ask the reduced pressure from the equation of corresponding state. So you know PR is 8TR 3VR minus 1 minus 3VR square. Now TR is T by TC, B by BC, and this is V by BC square. The T is given 40 Celsius. You convert it into Kelvin, 313 Kelvin. B is given, and VC, TC also given. So you just put the value of this T, TC, V, VC here, and you get the value of PR. So then now the PR you get from this calculation 1.1, and they ask the pressure exerted by 1 mole volume, and your P by PC is PR. This is not answer. Answer is P by PC is PR. PR value you get from this calculation. PC is given. Now you multiply PR and PC, you get the pressure exerted by carbon dioxide, and it is 81.03 atmosphere. This problem is interesting from this topic. You can say the applications of this law, that is the law of corresponding state, is like this. See this problem. Calculate the temperature and pressure that will have in state corresponding to 1 mole of hydrogen at 25 degrees Celsius and 1 atmospheric pressure. Given that TCC of hydrogen and TCC of ammonia is given, these are the given data, and they ask what is the value of temperature and pressure for ammonia. Now you see the temperature and pressure for hydrogen are given, T and P. These are for hydrogen here. Okay. So first we will determine the TR, that is the reduced temperature and reduced pressure for hydrogen. This is also for hydrogen. So T is given 298. TC also given here, and you get TR value is 9.03. Since hydrogen and ammonia, they are in corresponding state, that means their TR value of hydrogen is equal to the TR value of ammonia. So here we calculated the TR value of hydrogen, but we will use it for ammonia because they are in corresponding state. Now TR for ammonia, we will write the value of from hydrogen, that is a 9.03. TC is given here, this is given, and from here you can easily calculate the value of temperature. Okay. Similar way, we first calculate the reduced pressure because both value are given here, and we use this PR value from hydrogen and calculate the pressure for ammonia as PC is given. So this is the applications of this theory, that if two gases or two substances are in corresponding state, so we can use the one value for the another. So that's the importance of this law. This problem are given in Purisoma. I am just explaining. You can see or solve by yourself from Purisoma. Now taking the problem from Maxwell distribution law, where we determine the root mean square velocity, average velocity, and most probable velocity. Now I have shown you the relation between these three with the temperature and molecular mass is like this. This problem are very simple. For hydrogen gas, calculate the root mean square velocity at 0 degrees Celsius. 0 degrees Celsius, you convert it Kelvin. Molecular mass of hydrogen is 2 gram per mole. Since we are taking the SI unit, so I am converting this in kg. The 10 to the minus 3 kg, that is kg per mole, and put this value of T and M. R we are using here 8.314 because they are mole and kg mole Kelvin unit. So we are using 8.314 value instead of 0.082, and you will get the value of CRMS. Simply, you can also solve for C average and C most probable. Another problem from this topic is calculate the temperature at which the RMS velocity of oxygen gas is equal to this. Here they given the CRMS value and asked for the temperature. So just reverse of this problem, by putting the value you can also calculate the temperature. The third numerical problem is calculate the temperature at which the average velocity of oxygen is equal to that of hydrogen at 20 Kelvin. That means you have to determine the velocity temperature for oxygen, where the temperature for hydrogen is given. And it is for average velocity. So average velocity, we know the formula is under root 8 RT by pi m. 8 is constant, R also constant, pi also constant value. So these are constant. The only variation is temperature and molar mass. Since the gas is different, first one is oxygen, second one is hydrogen, their molar mass will be different and temperature also different. For hydrogen, it is given 20, and you have to determine the value of temperature for oxygen. So T1 by M1 equal to T2 by M2 because it says that they are equal. So I'm equaling this two quantity T1 by U1 M1. We can also avoid this because they are same both sides. We just can write T1 by M1 and T2 by M2. T1 we have to determine for oxygen, whose molar mass is 32. For hydrogen it is 2. That means it is 2 into 10 to the minus 3. Here also 32 into 10 to the minus 3. They cancel out. And T2 is 20. From here I can calculate the T1 value is 320 Kelvin for oxygen. So that's all. Some basics, very easy numerical problem from this unit, because this unit is somehow broader and derivative and numerical types problem. Now this is your finish of your first unit. Now you have total 3 unit from physical, 3 chapter from physical part. Class I will teach you in detail. The solid are different from liquid or gases in two perspectives, that they have fixed volume and fixed shape. They have fixed volume and fixed shape. That means the force of attraction between the, if I say this is a solid particle, they have like this, for example NaCl, although it is not NaCl structure. This type of solid or this type of have fixed shape and fixed volume, and the force of attraction between the molecule is very strong. That's why they have fixed shape. So in solid, you have two type of solid. One is crystalline solid Another is amorphous solid. Crystalline solid, also called true solid, and they call pseudo solid. Obviously, the name itself says true solid means they have a regular pattern like the previous one, like this. But they also solid, but they have no fixed shape. They may be like this. This pattern you can see, this is a regular hexagonal pattern, but here there is no fixed pattern. So they are pseudo solid somehow. Example is rubber or glass. Here diamond or NaCl salt. So this type of glass and rubber, they have no fixed shape. And second one is they have sharp melting point. The true solid or crystalline solid have sharp melting point. If I say NaCl melt at 39 degrees Celsius, that means when it reaches 39 degrees Celsius, the NaCl totally melt. But in case of this type of substance, they have a range of melting point. Like if I say it reached 39 and started melting, not completely, start melting and go up to 43, for example, and then it completely melt. That means they have no sharp melting point, rather a range of melting point. You have to take the average. And third one is isotropic. Isotropic means if I say this is a crystalline solid which have a fixed pattern, you can see cubic. So this is the crystalline solid. If I pass a light in this direction, it touches or refract, in fact, refraction. It refracts through these three atoms in this way. Okay. And if I pass another light like this, it will touch alternate. You see, this regular, this is dark one, this is light one. But in this case, the touches, for this is A type, this is B type. This first ray of light passing through this only B atom, but in case of this second light, they pass through A atom, alternate A and B atom. That means the refraction of light will be different for different side. If I pass it through this one, then will be different. This one, then will be different. That means the properties like refraction or conductivity, thermal conductivity, this type of physical properties will be different in different directions. That's why they are not isotropic, they are not similar in different directions. That's why these crystalline solids are anisotropic in nature. They are not same in all directions, they are different in different directions due to this fixed arrangement of atoms. But since they have no fixed arrangement, they will be isotropic in nature. They are like in between the solid and liquid. They also call super cooled liquid. So they are somewhat flexible. So that's why their properties, if I pass any light or if I measure the thermal conductivity, they will be somehow same in all directions. That's why their properties are isotropic in nature, same in all directions. But due to the fixed arrangement or fixed shape or fixed position of this atom, their nature is anisotropic. Another definition is so what is the definition of unit space lattice? You see this arrangement is repeated again and again. First one is A and this is B type of atom, A, B, A, B, here A, B, A, B. So if I draw like connecting this point A, B, B, A, similar where you can get here, here also, here. So this whole three-dimensional sheet, I am showing you two dimension, but in real it is three dimension. So the whole arrangement of the atom, regular arrangement of this atom in space, 3D space, is called the space lattice. And the repeating unit, the smallest repeating unit among the space lattice is called unit cell. That means the sum of unit cell is called space lattice. The many unit cell form space lattice. Space lattice means the whole structure of the crystalline solid, and the smallest repeating unit which repeat again and again to form space lattice is called unit cell. So this is definition of space lattice and unit cell. So I am telling you the definition. Space lattice is the regular arrangement of the constituent particle, that is atoms, ions, or molecules of a crystal in 3D space is called space lattice or crystal lattice. And unit cell is the smallest 3D portion of a complete space lattice, which repeated again and again. That is the smallest repeating unit or part. Now you have there are the study of this solid and their properties is called crystallography. There are three laws of crystallography. I will teach you in detail next class, but I'm just touching the laws of crystal. First one is constancy of interfacial angle, and the second one is symmetry. What was that? Law of rational indices, and third one is the I'm showing the point. Yes. Law of constancy of symmetry. The three laws of crystallography are the law of constancy of interfacial angle, law of rational indices, and law of constancy of symmetry. This will I will discuss in next class. This is just the simplest one. The interfacial angle is the angle between two planes. If I say this is a cubical, it has cubical structure, that is unit cell. So this is one plane This is another plane, one plane. This is another X plane. This is your another Z plane. So the angle between two plane is called, the angle between two plane is called interfacial angle. Facial mean plane, interfacial, that means the angle between two faces, two plane is called the interfacial angle. The law says that for a particular substance, like if I say, I will take NaCl again and again because this is the simplest one. If I say the NaCl have cubic structure, we know it have cubic structure. If I say NaCl, then for NaCl, the angle between two plane or two face will be constant, whatever the shape, size, no matter. If I say NaCl have this type of interfacial angle, another NaCl will be like this, maybe this will be like. So you can see the size of these two is different, and maybe like this. This is for another substance. This for CaCl. The hexagonal, they are hexagonal, have a unit cell. You see the shape somehow, this is broader, this is somehow narrower, but they are hexagonal. The shape is somehow different. Maybe the arrangement like this. You know, maybe like in this way, they become smaller. This is for another compound, NaCl. If I say the compound is fixed, NaCl or CaCl or any other KCl, then no matter what is the shape, size during the formation, somehow there will be pressure or construction during the contraction during the formation of this solid. So they somehow becomes like this, or the arrangement like this. No matter the shape or size, the interfacial angle, that is the angle between two faces, will be constant for a particular substance. This is called the constancy of interfacial angle. This is not depending on the size or shape. If the shape somehow changes in a smaller extent, but the angle always fixed. So these have a very wide application in practical cases. If you, by crystallography, if you determine the angle, from that angle value, you can easily can calculate, or you can get an idea of what type of it is, NaCl or CaCl or other type of compound. So this is very basic properties of crystal. They have a fixed or particular interfacial angle, and it is depend on the only the substance, not on the size or the shape. So this is first law, and the remaining two law I will discuss in next class.